Hi, this is Andy Fletcher from Convertri, and welcome to everyone to the webinar. Thank you for coming out on a Sunday. So for anyone who's not been on one of these calls before, we're following the usual format where we do a quick couple of minutes of introduction, quick, hi, I'm Andy, can you see my screen, etc., etc. I will do a short, probably 10, maybe 15-minute presentation. Today I'm going to be talking about mobile best practice and things you can do to make the editor work for you a bit quicker. And then we'll pretty much jump into questions and answers, and that will run as long as it runs. Sometimes it's as short as an hour, sometimes as long as 90 minutes. I'll just keep taking questions until people get bored, really. So anything anyone wants to particularly wants to know about mobile before we get started, please feel free to type it into the chat box now. I'll give you 30 seconds to do that. I'm going to have a quick swig of my drink, and then we'll launch into the presentation. Hey, Arthur, good to see you. Hey, Ed, good to see you again. Hey, Harry. Awesome. And as per request, so when we did the first one of these, I had the question and answer box kind of open as I was doing the presentation. And then every time somebody asked a question, I would leap on it and answer them, because I much prefer the Q&A section to the presentation bit. And it made the presentation incredibly hard to follow. So what I'm going to do as per request is I'll hide the Q&A box just for the length of time it takes me to do the presentation about mobile. I'll run through it, and then I'll bring the question and answer box back. So please don't think I'm ignoring you if you ask something during the presentation. I will get to it in like 10, 15 minutes. But otherwise, my brain has a habit of going, oh, I must answer this, then I must answer this. And we don't get much of a presentation. So excuse me if I'm not answering you straight away, but I will come back to it. And if I do happen to miss it, just ask your question again. Don't be afraid. Cool. Hey, right. Hello to all the new people that are coming in. Right. I see there's a couple of things. I'm going to launch into the presentation. Keep typing your questions, and I will revisit them as soon as we've done with that section. Cool. And again, thanks very much for coming out on a Sunday, guys. I really appreciate having you here. It'd be a bit weird if it was just me talking to my computer. Thanks for coming out. Cool. Right. Here we go. So today I'm going to start by talking about text resizing. So this is something that people overuse, but it is quite good for getting a bit more onto the mobile screen. So what we're going to do to start with is drag a text element in, and this is some text. Let's make it really big on desktop and a bit smaller on mobile. So having done that and appeased my OCD by fixing my typing, we're going to make this text nice and big on the desktop. So like big, okay, maybe not that big, a little bit smaller, like big text, but not too big. So we've got this really big. You've got to imagine this is kind of your headline at the top of your page, like this. And this is good, and we like it, and that'll look fantastic on a desktop. But when we open this on our mobile, you'll see that's, if you imagine that with a mobile screen, it probably cuts off about halfway down what's shown on my desktop. So literally all you'd be looking at on here, on your mobile screen, would be the headline. Now, there's people kind of get this wrong, and what they do is they try and make the text really, really small to get tons onto the page, onto the screen on mobile. And so what they end up doing is this kind of like thing like this, and then they go, okay, let's make it teeny tiny, and then I will fit loads onto the screen. And the problem with that is you've got to remember, like, text on a mobile shows up quite small anyway. So don't go over the top with this feature. You don't need to shrink it that far. 50% is quite good. Then you get what still looks like a headline, but people won't have to squint at their mobile. That's my preference for sizing. But try like we offer you the option because it's your page. We'll let you do what you want. But if you go much smaller than 50%, you're going to find people have quite a hard time reading it on their mobile screens. So setting stuff to about 50%, quite a good option. Right, next thing we're going to talk about is Convertri has this concept of containment, the idea of something being inside something else. So let's just shrink this in a bit just to make the demo a little bit easier. Then I'm going to put a panel behind this text. See, at the moment it's on top of it. So something is contained by something else when it's inside it with all of the edge lines and in front of it. So at the moment, nothing is containing, the text isn't contained within this panel because the panel's in front of it. But when I send the panel to the back, this text here is now contained within this panel. So this has a number of features. One is when I drag the panel, the text drags with it. And the other is that the mobilizing algorithm knows that we want this text to appear inside this panel. So when I switch to mobile, you'll see that the text appears inside the panel. Whereas if I hang it off the edge like this creates what I call, well, first of all, let's just put the text like this here. So we've got panel, text, and obviously, as you'd expect, the text now appears below the panel when we mobilize it. Now, where this gets awkward is where we create what we call floaters. Not quite as bad as it sounds. I don't know why that's become the company name. But so this is where we've got something that hangs over the edge of, so we've got this one background panel, and then imagine we have another background panel here. Let me just set a color on it. So it's really obvious what it is. So we've got these two background panels, like so, and I will send that backwards as well. So you'll see, even though this text is in front of both this top thing and this bottom panel, it's not contained within either of them. And to help you see that, what we've got is the the element outlines. So if you click on the display menu here, you can turn on element outlines, and you'll see these pink. Let me just pull these in so you can just see it a little bit better. So you see the outlines. Goodness, I can't wait for these. These text labels on the left were supposed to fade out, and it's totally a bug that we're working on fixing. And I should be very glad when we fix that. It's one of the things we did wrong with the new UI. I do apologise for that, by the way. Anyway, so by turning on element outlines in the display menu, what you get are these big, bold, pink outlines, so you can see exactly what's inside something else. So you'll see at the moment, we've got the grey panel, and nothing's inside it, this sort of bluey purpley panel, and nothing's inside it, and the text, and it isn't inside anything. So when we mobilize this, what's going to happen is it's going to treat these as three completely separate sections and stack them one on top of the other like that. And it will kind of guess what you want to do with the text, because even though it's on top, it's not contained. And that's the important factor, is this containment. So if I put the text up here, it's now contained, and it'll appear inside appear inside this grey box on mobile. But when it hangs over the edge like this, it's no longer contained, and Convertri doesn't quite know what to do with it, so it makes a best guess, and it doesn't overlap things, because whereas this makes quite a lot of sense on desktop, it's rare for you to want to overlap something. If you imagine overlapping an image between these, that's quite a common thing to do. So let me just add an image here. Use this trial Convertri logo. We're not going with this, by the way, but I happen to have it in my palette. So you'll see, if we happen to overlap this image here, that totally makes sense lining up here across the edge of two sections on desktop, but it would make no sense to overlap this across the edge of two on mobile. So Convertri takes a best guess at what you might want to do with it, and it puts it in the middle here. Now, that's not ideal, because what you'd like is things to appear usually inside something else. So most of the time in your designs, and particularly if you want the auto mobilize to work, you want to make sure that whatever you make is contained within other stuff. So we've got this background grey section, background grey panel, contains this text and contains this image, and then when we open it, both are contained like this on mobile. and we don't have to do anything. You'll notice all I'm doing during these demos is I'm manipulating the desktop version and just swapping to mobile. I haven't actually done any manual editing on the mobile version yet. And doing as much of it, getting as much out of the automation as possible, will really speed up how quickly you can make these pages. So just to look at another example, if I drop the image down into here, then when we click mobile, you'll notice that the text is within the grey one, the image is within the blue one. And Convertri can figure that out. Remember, where it goes wrong is where you hang it over the edge of two things like this, and then it will take a best guess. And it's rare that those best guesses are that useful to you. So there we go. Hope that's making some sense so far. The next thing I want to look at is how you hide stuff on mobile, because often, as an example, when we have this, or in fact, let's have our headline at the top as before, and then we've got our image hanging over the edge here. Now we want to show this on desktop because we like how it looks hanging across two sections, but when we go into the mobile, it's rubbish. We're not interested in that at all. So we select the image, click on Element Properties, and then at the bottom here, we've got the option to show where we want it. So if we click on mobile, you'll see that's now grayed out. And in fact, I'll show you the full demo. So with them both on, it's currently on desktop and mobile. When I click on turn off desktop, that's now an element that's only available in mobile. And what we're demoing today is turning it off in mobile. So you see it doesn't affect it on the desktop version, but then when I swap to mobile, you'll see that image is now gone. It's not there, and it's also not being taken into account in the mobilizing algorithm. So you'll often find where you have these images that you want to hang across two sections on desktop, it's a very, very common thing to want to do. You've got a lot of screen space to play with. You can have these big elaborate designs and lay stuff out wherever you want. You'll find when you're mobilizing, it just doesn't make sense on a mobile screen. All it's doing is just adding clutter. So by toggling that property off to set it, you don't then end up with this image that you're just not quite sure what to do with. So let me just look down my list. So yeah, so the main things to take into account with this are making sure stuff is contained. Now, one of the areas this goes wrong the most often, let me just get rid of this image and this panel for a second. So it's quite common to want to put a panel behind some text like this, like maybe you're making a button, or it doesn't really matter. And you end up with text that's quite, I'm just going to dump this out of the way. You end up with text that's kind of like quite tight up to the edge of your panel. So at the moment, you'll see this panel still contains this text, and we can see with the element outlines, one's contained within the other. You'll quite often find that when you do this, you'll end up with it something like this. And if you don't have element outlines turned on, it can be quite hard to see, because you see at the moment, it looks like this text box is completely inside this grey panel. And so you probably get the idea of containment now. It's something inside something else. And you look at this and you're like, okay, that text is inside that panel, so it should mobilize one inside the other. However, when I go to mobile, oh, that one's works. Let me just make it a little bit bigger to illustrate the point. Yeah, you'll find these edge cases, or there's probably a better example. Yeah, there we go. So you see the text looks like it's inside it, but because the box the text is in is hanging over the edge of the panel box, it doesn't mobilize one inside the other. You get it outside. That's where these element outlines are really useful. So you can now see it's really clear that this text box is hanging over the edge. And what we need to do is we need to bring it back in. Maybe make this a little bit taller to make sure it sits outside that text box. And now when we mobilize it, you'll see one is now inside the other, and Convertri understands it. It's a very, very common thing to go wrong, and then people wonder, like, what's happened to this? Now, the final thing I want to talk about is remobilizing. So when you've made edits on mobile and you're like, ugh, I don't actually like how that looks, I want to go back to the way Convertri did it originally, we've got a button to redo the process. So if we look at mobile, again, two really simple elements and text inside a panel. If we drag one outside the other, then imagine you've done a bunch of other stuff. Doesn't really matter what. And you decide, I don't like how that looks. I want to go back to how Convertri thought it should look. That's where the remobilize button here, you click on that, and that puts the text back inside the panel. And it just, in this example, but it will undo, it will just remobilize whatever Convertri thought your page should look like based on the desktop. So quick revisiting, we've got text resizing. So remember, not uncommon for people to go, oh, okay, I'd quite like it really, really small, and then people can't read it. Try and stick to about 50% as a minimum for the best results. We've got this idea of containment, of keeping one thing inside the other, and then using this toggle of element outlines in order to make sure that they're actually one inside the other for when you're using the mobile algorithm. We've got this idea of a floater where something sits across the edge of two other things, like that. And that creates, Convertri doesn't know what to do with that. It has to take guesses. And then we've got this idea of having a thing that we show on desktop and not on mobile by turning this off. Cool, so that's the mobile stuff. I tend to talk quite quickly, so if any of that didn't make sense, if you'd like to see a specific demo, if you'd like to see a bit more of it again, please ask away. I'll be here for plenty of time. And if you've got any other questions you'd like to talk about, please ask away and I'm happy to answer them. Cool, right. So, okay, so a bunch of people typing stuff while I was doing that. So, excuse me, I'm going to go through the list. And if I missed your question, please just ask it again. So I'll start from the top. Arthur says he's trying to get the Afterglow player to work with multiple players, but it just plays the one video. Yeah, Afterglow is really difficult to get working. We've had a play ourselves because we were hoping to use it as like the basis of our sort of Unity player. So you just have the one video element, and you throw Vimeo or YouTube or your own MP4, like whatever at it, and it knows what to do. And it was just a bit of a faff to get working. So yeah, I feel your pain. I can't really help you with it other than to say we are working on that video element to stop you kind of having to do these manual things for yourselves. Cool. Ed says he's... Oh, sorry. 2 seconds, guys. For those of you that have been on these webinars before, you'll know that whenever I shut myself in my office to do a presentation, my cat decides she absolutely must be in here with me and can't stop pouring at the door. So I have to open it slightly to let her in. Otherwise, she complains for the entire hour. It's quite distracting for me. Okay, so let's have a look. Ed says you bought Outgrow through our promotional link, and he thinks it's software with great potential. I'm glad you like it, Ed. We were really, really pleased with that. It was one of the coolest things we've had a chance to share. So thanks for that. Arthur says the mobile view on his computer and what he sees on his phone can be a little off and needs adjusting. Yeah, so we do our best to do a representation of exactly what you'll see on your phone, but basically all phone devices, all browsers on phones, they can be different. And while we do our best to make it as pixel perfect as possible, we can't absolutely guarantee it. So yeah, you sometimes will need to do that testing. As sort of like a lowest common denominator test you can do, try and check your stuff on an iPhone and on an Android device in Chrome, and you'll find that will cover 90% of people that see your pages. There's a ton of other devices out there, but you get into diminishing returns pretty quickly. Simon's asking if it's possible to import HTML pages into Convertri. So yes. Well, sort of. So we've got a page importer that we've been working on for several months, which is currently in beta. It's currently with agency users and for beta testing. So you can basically point the page importer at any page on the web, and then it will have a go at importing it for you. A couple of caveats on that. The import process is not absolutely perfect. You're not going to get an absolutely guaranteed 100% it looks exactly the same like for like you should expect to do a little bit of work on the page after you've imported it. And the other one is a legal note. Obviously, you should be using this to import your own pages. You shouldn't be pointing this at apple.com and going, wow, there's some good looking images. I'd like them on my site. You should only be using this for your own stuff, he says, to cover himself, because his lawyer shouts at him if he doesn't. But no, seriously, don't rip other people off, guys. It's not cool. Arthur says, yeah, I started using element outlines more and more. Yeah, I've got to be honest. I pretty much, whenever I use Convertri, I just have element outlines turned on 100% of the time. And then I click on preview to see what the page will look like without them, almost. They are just that useful. Ah, hey, Peter. Good to see you, mate. So Peter's asking if you wanted the logo that was on the right to go at the top in the Automobify. How could you do that? So at the moment you can't. There's no, like, you can change that manually after the Automobile process, but the Automobile process goes left to right on the screen, and if something's on the left, it will appear above in the next thing. Will asks, are my own designs copyright when using Convertri? Yeah, I think so. Like, I mean, we certainly don't own the rights to them, if that's what you're asking. There's nothing in our terms of service that is like, we own anything you build in Convertri. Everything you own is your own intellectual property. I don't, as far as like me being a lawyer and being able to say like what counts as a copyrightable web page, that I couldn't tell you. But if your question is like, will Andy and Co rip off my designs? No, we absolutely will not. That you definitely own your own stuff that you've built. Cool. Thanks. Harry says it was a great demo. Thank you very much. It's as I've noted on all of these before, I'm a lot more confident doing the Q&A part of this than I am doing the presentation. I tend to and ah a little bit too much. Yeah, good shout, Peter. So Peter's noted that click to call stuff's a pretty popular thing to do. So you can pretty much just make what's called everyone calls it a click to call link, but it's literally just starting. Peter probably knows the format better than me. I didn't prepare this for the demo, so maybe you can type it into the chat box, Peter. But you can start the link with tell : I think might have a slash after it, and then you can make anything into a click to call button. So if, for example, I had a button on my screen and then this, so we would go tell and then some phone number on it. So I make it say call me, and then when they click on that, and I'd have to double check if that's the correct link format. But yeah, so you can look that up easy enough. But by doing that, when they click on it on their phone, that will then be a link to call it. Ed's asking if there's an updated video tutorial overview to build from scratch. We have an onboarding sequence. Which you can, we've only activated that on the autoresponder recently. So if you bought Convertri more than about a couple of months ago, you won't have gone through it. If you'd like to go through the onboarding video sequence, which basically takes you through building your first squeeze page, delivering your first asset, some stuff like that, linking up your first form from an autoresponder, then drop an email to support@convertri.com and we'll stick you on a special list, which will just run that through to your email for you, so you can go through that process. Failing that, there's also there's a ton of videos at help.convertri.com. Arthur's mentioned using video.js. So we've been exploring an absolute ton of different options. I found a new one, the name of which escapes me, but it works a ton better than video.js does. Video.js is pretty old now, and there's some new ones out there that just work loads better. We're basing I'm calling it the Unity player, because the idea is it unifies Vimeo, YouTube, and your own MP4s. So that uses one of the other open source ones. It's similar to video.js. It's just been written a lot more recently. There's a lot less bloat in it, so it seems to work a bit better. Robert's asked if we've decided on the logo. Yes, we have. We were considering swapping it to. There are a bunch of options, but in the end, most people we spoke to liked the Convertri logo the way it was. Didn't like the new designs that people came up with. So we are sticking with the Convertri bunny that you all know and love. Simon's asking about the HTML importer and if it will be available to charter members. It's very unlikely that charter members will get access to the page importer. The page importer costs us an absolute fortune to develop, and it costs an absolute fortune to run because of the import process it goes through. So that is almost certainly, like, it may be an agency-only feature. It will probably be a pro-only feature. It's very unlikely we'll be able to make it available to charter members. Sorry. Will asks if he can use my voice in a Mission Impossible movie. Is that just because I'm British? Or have you got another reason? Doctor, Jussi, apologies, I don't know how to pronounce your name, says that when he adds some buttons to a page, it looks great on Chrome, but some users can find a delay for the buttons to appear on different browsers like Explorer. How can he correct that? And is it true that 90% of users use the Explorer browser? So first of all, definitely not. Chrome's the most used browser at the moment by a long way. Internet Explorer is way down there now. And however, that doesn't mean we don't care about it. You shouldn't need to fix that. If that's happening, we want to fix that for you. If you can send the page that it's happening on to support@convertri.com, so we'll dig into it and find out what's causing that delay, because it really shouldn't. Like, page speed is one of the things we pride ourselves on. So if you're seeing any kind of rendering delay, we want to find out why that's happening and fix it. So thank you. Hi, Arthur. No, it's not Media Element. Media Element actually did worse than Video.js. Oh God, I can't remember the name of it now. Apologies. I'll look it up and stick it in the group or something. It's a relatively new one, certainly not one I'd even heard of until I went looking a month or two ago. And the one I found looks so much better than any of these like older ones like Media Element and Video.js. Arthur says he hopes we push the importer to pro users. So do I. As I say, it's in beta at the moment. We need to see how it performs with a smaller group of people, because the last thing we want, like, it's a really expensive process, and we need to make sure that there is no risk, like when it's used on a wider scale. As you know, we take uptime really seriously. We don't want to have any problems with it. I'm reasonably confident it will go pro, but as with all these things, I can't make any guarantees or promises. We are doing our best, though. Hey, George asks, what kind of landing page builder Convertri is? Is it a pixel-precise drag and drop or a column-based drag and drop? We are a pixel-precise drag and drop builder. If you check out your screen, I hope everyone can still see my screen. I haven't turned that off or anything. So you will see, let's simplify this a little bit, delete this panel. So we've got this text box. I'll turn off element outlines just for the demo. And let's delete the call me button. Again, to simplify, so you'll see we've got a gray panel and then some text hanging off the edge of it. And just to illustrate, just in case you joined the call a little bit late, I'm just going to drag, you see, there's no rows or columns. I'm just dragging this around freeform. So I'm going to drag it a bit down here. Then we're going to publish this to George demo. It's publishing away now, figuring out how to do it. And then when we view the page, you will see it looks like, apart from the fact it's a bit higher up because we haven't got the editor top bar, that's exactly the same thing. One browser tab to the other. And yeah, that's a completely unprepared demo. I've not faked any of that. I've just dragged some stuff around. It will look as pixel perfect as we can possibly make it. Will asks if we'll be adding personalization, like funky brackets with name in the middle, personalization to the platform. We're working on it because of Convertri's publishing model. We don't have the same processing layer that most services do. It's part of how we deliver the page speed we're able to do, where all of these pages, that when somebody accesses your page, there is no processing that goes on. That's part of how we're able to show it so quickly. But the problem with that is we can't manipulate the page as easily to do those kind of personalization stuff. So it's definitely on the to-do list. We're just not quite sure how we're going to do it yet. That is a good question, Ed. Ed asks if the page importer will work using a page from the Wayback Machine. I think so, because you can. They're not behind any kind of password protection or anything like that, are they? They're just a page on the web. So I think there's every chance if you just pointed at a URL of something from the Wayback Machine, it'll import it. But I haven't tried it, so give it a go. Let me know. Hey, there's a slight manual bit to it. I can give you if you drop an email to support@convertri.com, we can give you I'll do a special deal on the upgrade, so you don't have to pay full price for the pro or agency versions. Just support@convertri.com and mention this webinar, and I said that, and they'll sort you out with a cheaper link, so you can upgrade as you're a charter member. Arthur asks when we'll have affiliate templates for selling Convertri. That should be, it's a little way off yet, but we'll definitely be ready by the end of October when we have this big marketing push we're building up to. Since obviously we would like as many of our members as possible to be able to take part in that big push as well. And one of the things we're going to do with it is we're working on our own affiliate system. Like I'm actually personally writing the code for that at the moment. So the idea is that by having a Convertri account, you will just be an affiliate. We're finding like JVZoo's just a bit clunky, a bit annoying for those things. So we want people to just be an affiliate as a Convertri user, and then have these templates built in. And when you share funnels with people, if they don't already have Convertri and they buy because you've shared a funnel with them, then you can make sales that way. This is all stuff we're hoping to build out over the next couple of months. Ed, I wholeheartedly agree with you. Ed says he recommends all charter members upgrade and support the platform for the future. Obviously, Ed, I agree with you entirely. I think everyone should upgrade as well and pay me lots of money. Because honestly, if they do, then the more money we have, the more developers we hire and the more cool features we get. At the moment, like Neil and I don't take much money out of the platform at all. We take enough out to pay our rent and cover our bills because, we like food and stuff like that. But to be honest, the majority of the money that comes in just goes straight back into paying the team that make the platform. We're pretty set on making Convertri as featureful as it can possibly be. So if we get a load more people upgrade, it's not like I'm going to be sipping Mai Tais in the Bahamas. That will just all go into making Convertri super cool. Arthur says he saw the monthly price go down. I don't think so. We did we've run a couple of special offers on the way through. We haven't put the price down, but we have run a couple of special deals, if that's what you mean. Jay says big +1 for our own affiliate system. Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty cool. Yeah, I'm not keen on JV Zoo, and I'm also not keen. I see Arthur's mentioning Thrivecart because they've got an affiliate system. To be perfectly honest, there's two reasons that I don't really want to go with another provider. One is I want to make an affiliate system and just the cart and everything available to you guys as part of Convertri. The other thing is, to be perfectly honest, we've had some problems with payment processors and other affiliates and all kinds of things, and we want as few people between us and our recurring money as possible, because it's pretty terrifying that if to take JV Zoo or Thrivecart or any of these companies, if they disappeared, then that's our recurring revenue that goes with them, and I'm a little bit nervous about building on that. So I want to talk directly to a payment processor, and that also means I can make that stuff available to you guys. So it seems to be pretty win-win. Arthur says that every member should run ads and get new paying members under them. Then we'd grow much faster. Yeah, definitely. In fact, I mean, that is one of the things we really want to open up in the next couple of months, ready for this big marketing push. That it's when we launched a year and a little bit ago, we were very focused on connecting with like the really big influencers that had giant lists, and obviously that's still a big part of our game plan for the end of October. But I want to do my best to try and make a bunch of these tools available to uh, sort of more beginner marketers, less experienced guys, or perhaps like really experienced guy, but you're an experienced marketer in another sphere, but you just want to share the word about Convertri. Convertri is pretty big in real estate now. We seem to be picking up lots of real estate guys, and they don't have lists of internet marketers, but they do have a bunch of contacts of other real estate guys that would like to use Convertri, and they want to get those affiliate commissions. So we want to open up some of these just simple things they can do to start earning those commissions, because it's good for everyone. Hey, Harry. Harry's asking how you upgrade. We've got, if you're a charter member, we've got some slightly better deals. We typically only make them available during like quite short windows, because we don't want it to become a commonplace thing. But since you've been kind enough to turn out on a Sunday and come to this webinar, if you drop an email to support@convertri.com, we'll hook you up with a discounted upgrade link, so you can get on the pro or agency plan. Arthur says he's in real estate. Yeah, we seem to be doing really well. I honestly don't know how we've become quite big in like American real estate, but we have, by just some weird twist of reality. I keep having chats with people, and I'm like, oh, what are you using Convertri for? And it's like, oh, I'm in real estate, and I make pages for the houses I sell, or I try and attract people to sell their house with me by making pages on Convertri. So that's cool as far as I'm concerned. Hey, Bhupinder is asking about a timeline for the forms builder. What do you mean the forms builder? This is probably something I've talked about in the past and don't quite remember. Can you share some more details in the chat box, please? Excuse me, guys. We're coming up on 40 minutes. My throat's starting to go. Just gonna have a quick drink. Excuse me. Contact forms. Right. I'm hoping contact forms happen by the end of October. I can't absolutely guarantee it. That they're a pretty key piece of, particularly if you're trying to sell. Like if you go to a local business like a plumber or a optician or anyone like that, and you're like, I will make you this amazing thing. It'll work really quickly. It'll be really easy. You can edit it yourself. And all you have to do is pay me a small monthly fee. It's a great sell. We've got loads of people doing that with Convertri, and one of the biggest sticking points people are finding is everyone in those areas expects a contact form, and the only thing Convertri can offer at the moment is we've got all of these fancy autoresponder integrations, but they don't really support like a message box particularly well, or we've got Google Forms, and they're kind of crap. Let's be honest. We integrated them thinking they worked better than they really do. And so we really need to provide our own simple like contact form system. So there is a box, people can type stuff into it, and it appears either in your Convertri account or it just gets sent to an email address you specify. And any of these things would be a good option. And then that would unblock that part of your sales process. So that will make it just easier to sell to these local businesses. As I say, I'm reasonably confident we get that for October, but I can't 100% guarantee it. Yeah, quite. It's you, and it's quite a few local business like offline sellers are finding this. It's probably the number one sticking point in that market at the moment. That and sticky footers is probably second. So at the moment, you can make like a layer that sticks on the page and sticks to the top of the screen. You can't really do that at the bottom, and some people are finding the need to stick stuff to the bottom is quite a sticking point. So we're also trying to address that. Again, on that same kind of timeline. But yeah, the contact form is definitely the biggest one. Cool. Okay, so hang on. Yeah, so the questions are starting to dry up a little bit. So I've got one for you guys. What do you think of the new editor? And please be honest. Like, I like most of it. I think there's some things that we need to fix. I'd love to hear feedback from you guys on which bits you like, which bits you don't like. For me in particular, like there's several bits I'm not keen on that we're going to fix. So and they're literally scheduled for next week, hopefully. So we've got these text elements on the left. They're all like the floating labels. I find really annoying that they don't get out of my way. Then we've got the text editing bar, which is this bar looks so much better than the old one, but it's really annoying when you're like trying to work on a headline that's at the top of the page like this to have it sit over the top. So we're exploring options for probably the winner at the moment is just having it open like this, because when you're editing text, you rarely need access to the things that are behind it. So this is probably the winner, but we're exploring a few options for that one. Another one is having to click in this like dragging border on the text element in order to get at the element properties for it. That's super frustrating. That annoys the heck out of me. So we're fixing that, and also these quick access icons, particularly delete being where you expect to like close the thing. That's just in the wrong place. And these quick access icons, I'm just not mad keen on them being one level lower. Like I liked that before where they were just quicker to access. So I'm really glad we did this work, but I think there's some things we should fix. And I'm really keen to hear which bits you guys think we should fix. What do you like? What don't you like? Cool. Harry says he hasn't tested the new version yet. Robert says nice presentation. Have to get used to it, says Will. Yeah, Arthur says he likes it. Taking a bit of getting used to, keeps looking for things in the wrong place, and the floating label should definitely disappear. Jay says he'd like the panels outside the view. Yeah, we're looking at that. That turns out to be harder than you'd think in an app like Photoshop. It just has access to the whole screen, and so it's fine to have a panel that you just drag out of the editor. Because we're rendering everything into the browser, creating a thing that you can drag outside of your browser is actually quite taxing. So I'm not sure if that's going to be an issue or not. Yeah, Ed, great question. So Ed says there are people building 30-page funnels and the visuals get clunky. Is there going to be a new way to lay those out? Yeah, absolutely. That's something we've been talking about with the UI team in the last week to try and. I'm going to be honest, we don't have an answer yet, but it's something we are looking at. When we designed the original page layout, sorry, I should call it like the funnel layout with the page cards and the arrows, we were looking at other funnel builders, and what we came up with was way better. Like, it's more flexible, and if you're only building funnels of those kind of sizes, it works really well. When you've got this super complicated 30-page funnel with all kinds of stuff going on, It's great that Convertri lets you do that. We need some tools to make that easier to work with, because right now it becomes really frustrating to try and build a funnel of that size. And we want you guys to be able to build as complicated a funnel as you like. So that's definitely on the list to fix. Jay says, let the user decide how to arrange the interface. Yeah, we do. Yes and no. We're doing our best to let stuff be moved around. Like when you've got the element properties panel up, this can be moved and so on. But customizing the interface takes a lot of dev cycles to enable, and all of that dev time could go into other features. So there's probably only going to be a limited amount of customization of how the UI looks. Bufinda says being able to put color codes in for text. Yeah, this is one of my two big design flaws when I wrote the original code for Convertri. So there's two big mistakes I made. One is not setting it up so you can enter a hex code for text. So when you highlight text to set the color, you can only pick the color. You can't type into it, because to type into this box would be to lose this selection. So the editor then wouldn't know what text you're working on. So the only way to do that is to assign the color, so like the background of this panel, and then you pick it out of the recently used ones, which is frustrating for everyone, and I will fix it, but I still don't know quite how we're going to do it. And the second big mistake I made is how we made undo redo work, which means that undo redo is really slow on big pages. So I apologize for both of those. Peter says he'd prefer the text properties not to float but expand the top down. That's something we're trying to avoid. So a lot of our competitors have things that move the page, and one of the biggest bits of user feedback we've had is people hate it when stuff you do in the editor moves the page around. So if, for example, when we clicked into this text, instead of being like this, the toolbar had like moved down and then the page had moved down with it. That's really visually jarring for people. So we don't, when you open anything, we want to avoid that movement and jumping on the page. So you have this feeling that your page is fixed and only you can change it. That's quite important to us. Arthur says maybe putting pages in a folder or something. Yeah, one of the ideas we're kicking around the office, and I have no idea if it'll work or if we'll even get as far as, we will paper prototype it. I don't know if we'll ever implement it. We need to see if it'll work. Is having like kind of sections of the funnel that you put into folders. So it's like, this is the opt-in section, or this is the follow-up bit, or this is the week one follow-up. So you can have subsections of your funnel and then design the top level. It's like they go through the opt-in, then they go through the autoresponder, then they go. That might work, but we need to do some more investigation to see why people have this, what it is people are building that are 30 pages big, because we still don't fully understand what they're doing with it to really make a good UI for it. Will says he loves the bunny logo with new UI design. Thank you very much. I will pass that on to the design team. We're all pretty happy with it. Hey, Tiger Bill. Tiger Bill says he currently has SSL enabled on everything, but Convertri doesn't force it. Is this something we're planning to do? Yeah, absolutely. So we originally didn't provide SSL for custom domains because the provider we went with, it was just too expensive. The provider we originally used, called Fastly, wanted $275 per month per domain off us to provide SSL. I used words to the sales guy that I'm not going to repeat on this webinar. That is clearly completely unviable to us. So that's why we built our own CDN. We moved away from Fastly. It has all of the same great protections that Fastly has for you, but it also means that we can provide free SSL. But what this means is originally there were like all Convertri pages were SSL, but all custom domain pages were non-SSL, and now we've turned on SSL for everything. That's great, but some people have some elements on the page that don't necessarily work if the page is SSL, or will generate warnings if we force it. So we need to come up with a migration plan before we swap that over. But that is absolutely something we're going to do, because everything on the web, like Google Chrome, so much stuff is starting to issue more and more warnings, just if you're on a non-SSL page anyway. So as far as we're concerned, we're moving with everyone else. We are going to make it SSL only for everything, and it will do the force redirect. If somebody accesses it via just HTTP, it will redirect to HTTPS, and that HTTP will just not be a thing anymore. But because some people have these pages, we need to figure out the migration plan before we switch that on. But yeah, it's absolutely coming. Yeah, it's a good idea, Peter. Like entering kind of the common colors that you're going to use on your page in a separate entry, such that you can then pull it out of the picker, is definitely a good option, I think. Will asks if we can add a universal password for the lock element to prevent VAs from tampering with the design. It's finer grained permissions is on the cards. We want to do, at the moment it's quite high level. It's like either the guy has access to a site or they don't. We'd like to make that a bit more fine grained, like sort of funnel level, page level, possibly element level. Might be going a bit far, but that's definitely something we're looking into. Probably won't be done via a universal password. It will be part of the existing permission system. Great question, Arthur. Arthur asks, what are the next major updates and timelines? So I have a list of stuff. I'm just going to switch my screen around. You might lose my screen for a moment. I'm not sure how GoToWebinar works. Give me one moment. Hopefully you can still see my web browser. So stuff we have coming up so the timeline we're looking at for the stuff I'm about to say, we're hoping to have in the next 2 months. Please do not quote me on that. Please don't be the guy that comes back in like 2 months and a day and was like, Andy, on that webinar on Sunday, the whatever the heck it is of September, you said this was going to be ready, and it's not. Like, I'm not guaranteeing it. I'm just trying to give you an idea of where we're taking this. So we are currently improving the page importer. At the moment, there's a bunch of stuff it just can't import that we want it to be able to. Forms being quite a big one, video another one, and what got pushed literally 2 days ago was just better font recognition. So Convertri had a habit of being like, it's probably Arial, and it's pretty much never Arial, and that made pages look a bit off. So we've done our best to recognize all of the fonts we support in their various forms, so pages just import a lot better. Then the guy working on that in a couple of weeks will be moving on to improving the mobile algorithm. So we think our mobile algorithm is all right, but there's a lot of quick wins we can take there to make the swapping from desktop to mobile, the auto mobilization, just a lot better. And we're hoping that's going to include the ability to remobilize a single section only. So if you've done a bunch of work, let's say you've got 3 sections on your page and you've done a bunch of work on 2 of them, and you kind of screwed up the 3rd one, we don't want you to have to auto-mobilize the whole page and then manually do the whole thing again. We want you to be able to just regenerate a section of it. We think that will be really useful. We are going to be adding PayPal as an integrated payment processor as part of adding our own affiliate system. The affiliate system should definitely be ready by the end of October, because that's what we're going to be running for our own marketing event. It's unclear at this point whether at that point it will also be available so all of our users will get access to it to be an affiliate. We don't know whether at that point all of our users will just have their own affiliate program, or whether that will be a bit later. So we have a bunch of smaller tasks that we want to start tackling. The guy that will be doing this section is on the editor UI. So all of the quick wins you heard me talking about before about just improving how the UI works, they're going to happen first. But then he will be working down a list of making it so drag handles and the selection thing are always on top. We have this quite annoying thing where if I put this drag handle behind like that, then I click on the panel, you'll see it's I can't actually get at this drag handle because it's behind the text, but it's quite clear this is what I've got selected. If I try and drag here, I'm totally trying to drag that. So we're going to make that sit on top rather than behind and also improve the look of it. We are going to tackle some kind of like short editor intro. So when you first access the editor, it will do you a quick walk around of this is here, that's there, etc. That's more of a new user thing though. And so if you're on this call, that's probably not for you. We want to be able to set hover styles on particularly buttons, but the idea is to make that sort of generally available on Elements. So when you mouse over something, you don't have to use the triggers and behavior system, which is quite heavy. We want you just to, it's like the buttons are dark blue when it's on the page and it's a light blue when you move the mouse over it. Like you shouldn't need to create a separate button and have a trigger that hides one and shows. That's really heavy. We just want you to be able to control some of the styling on mouse over. We want to do drop downs and radio buttons and link them to the cart. So that will let you do. We probably won't support this sort of free-form quantity concept, but it will let you do things like, do you want 1, 3, or 5 of the widget that I sell? And then that will be automatically populated and it will show in your sales thing as it won't just be 1, it will be whatever they've selected. And that will probably need to be linked to some kind of like updating price widget thing. Then we're into the territory of animations, sliders, and sticky footers. This is definitely the territory where we're unsure if this is going to happen by October or not. But those are 3 things we'd love to open up because we think they're pretty useful. There's the SSL fixing that I've already talked about. We're hoping to sort out name servers for Convertri. So instead of at the moment having to do the CNAME thing that you're used to having to do, we want you to be able to just specify like ns1.convertri.com, ns2.convertri, or whatever it happens to be called. And then your domain is just pointed to us and we do this sort of more complicated bit for you. We've heard from a lot of people that that's very much how they're used to this working. So we want it to work that way as well. And we're also in the process of upgrading our CDN to allow us to do a GeoIP publishing. So you'll be able to say, it's like, I want to show this version of the page in the UK and this version of the page to everywhere else in the world. And that's particularly going to be targeting places like Canada, for example, which are going to have much more stringent opt-in laws. And you really don't want the heavier, like, check this box to confirm thing going on in most places. But where you have to have it, you'll be able to have a GeoIP version of your page. That's an upgrade that's in process at the moment. We have plans to improve the sign-up flow. But again, if you're here on this call, that's probably not particularly relevant to you. Then we have the affiliate system, which I already mentioned. And then, webhooks, that's quite a big one. So that's something I wrote the code for last week, and the first one will be out on Tuesday. So this is the idea that when something is bought in Convertri, Convertri will be able to tell a third-party system, such as Everlesson, Product Dino, whatever it happens to be you use to fulfill your products, Convertri will be able to talk to it. What's being implemented on Tuesday is the webhook for an initial purchase, the webhooks for subsequent recurring purchases and refunds will follow later. But that one should be out on Tuesday. And that's the big list. So that's our sort of stretch goals as well. That's what we're hoping to have. Basically everything I've just said for the end of October. Might be a bit more than we can realistically tackle, but that's the hope anyway. That was quite long. Excuse me. I'm just gonna have another drink before we continue. Okay, Peter says, keep a fixed space that the stuff can appear in. Yeah, that's pretty much the plan. Is we're probably going to introduce we're not 100% sure how it's going to work. We've got designs where there's a text editor bar. So in fact, if I click into the text, it would be like the text bar is sort of here, and it would be shorter. It won't be as tall, obviously, because that's taking up quite a lot of vertical screen space. So we're exploring that option because it being fixed in place means it doesn't get on top of anything ever. We think that's quite useful. We are also exploring the possibility of opening it like this because it is pretty rare to need access to what's behind this. And it's not terrible to have to deselect it. But I'm not wild about that, I have to say. But it would certainly be better, and that's a lot quicker to do in the short term. But I think this idea of having another bar is probably going to win out long term. We shall see. Lots of people saying thank you. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you, Time Phil. Thank you, Sal. Peter asks if the PayPal stuff is charter member. I think it will be, but as with all things, until we've done the work to implement it, we can't guarantee stuff. Because sometimes when we build things, like the page importer is obviously something we'd love to have made available to everyone, but one, it took so long to build. You have no idea what my development build was for that. And two, it costs a small fortune to run the thing, which we were not expecting. So hence, we love you guys, but we're also in the business of making money. We can't afford to lose money on these things. And that there is a significant per user cost for making that available. So sometimes we discover those things, and when we do, we have to say no. But the hope is it'll be available. Yeah, Jay's suggesting a side panel so it's stuff that then doesn't interfere with the design area. The problem with all of this is limited screen size. I'm demoing this on quite a big monitor. The screen you're seeing is only about half the width of my full monitor, so we've got tons of space. People try and use Convertri on much smaller screens, particularly when they're just on a laptop. So we have to be careful about just how much stuff we fix. Honestly, even these things being fixed aren't ideal. We want to try and minimize as much as possible. In fact, one thing we've got planned that we're going to experiment with is a minimize button, which will try and turn off as much stuff as you don't typically need access to, and you'll have the quick access things, maybe text and the element properties, and that's it. And then you switch out of it to get back to this. But we're not 100% sure how that'll work yet. Yes, Simon. So there's Simon's asking if we've got a comparison between Charter Pro and Agency. So if you go to www.convertri.com, there's that will be there's a sorry guys, I need a drink. 2 seconds. Oh, excuse me. Right. Back with it. Okay, so if you go to www.convertri.com, there's a comparison chart available. I think it's on the pricing page, but I can't quite remember. But you can definitely see it there. Webhooks is definitely for charter members. That's basically the only way it will integrate with a bunch of stuff. So that will definitely just be available to everyone. That's a key part of the cart that and there's very little cost in providing that. We've got a couple of extra worker servers, but there doesn't seem to be a particularly per user cost. There is just an incremental cost that we're paying to provide that. Oh, thanks, Bill. So Bill says, every time I log into Convertri, it seems you've added features that make it even easier to use. Many thanks for all your hard work. Oh, thank you very much for being our customer. We are doing our best to make it as cool as possible and having great fun doing it. I never used to like doing these webinars. I'm not. I'm quite an extroverted person with people. I've always found it a bit weird talking to my computer, but something about talking about Convertri just makes me really excited. So I do have great fun building it, and seeing people giving up their personal time on a Sunday to come and like hang out with me and talk about the thing that I have built, that just puts a really big smile on my face. So thank you guys as well. Will asks if we could minimize the elements panel to the computer's dock as a feature. We can't change, we can't affect anything that's outside the browser. So we're pretty much limited to what's in the editor, what's in the browser window. We can't interact with the dock and stuff like that without being an app that you have to install. And that's just not a direction we're going in. Why not have pin open feature like Word and Outlook? I don't know what that looks like. I'll go and explore it after this call and let you know what. Well, maybe we will have it. The main reason we don't have it is I've not really used that feature. I'll let you know. Cool. Arthur says he likes the floating toolbar but hates the labels. I am with you. Thanks for including screenshots. Oh, in fact, hang on. Let me open. I should be able to open what you're sending me, not in the window that everyone sees. I'm sure it's nothing, but I'm always a bit nervous opening just links that people send me on these calls because I'm terrified of what's going to be on them. Right. Yeah. Okay. So Jay is asking about will it be possible to add tags to the actions that can be passed into autoresponders? So the answer to that is kind of yes and no. It's definitely possible. Every autoresponder implements tagging differently. So it will be it's not something we're just going to turn on and just all autoresponders, all tags will just be supported. As much as we'd love to do that, we have to custom write that for every single one. So you can expect to see it. You can basically expect to see it kind of rolled out on a per autoresponder basis as we get to it. Harry says he's enjoyed the webinar. Thank you, Harry. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. Honestly, hearing those things makes these things worthwhile doing. So I'm glad you came out. Ed says make sure we don't let Russell Brunson sneak into our webinars. Honestly, he's welcome to come along if he likes. I don't think there's any secret sauce to what we're doing. We're both building a solution to much the same problem. I don't think it's anything anyone's doing is any great surprise. We're both building much the same feature set. I like what we've got a lot more. Obviously, I wouldn't be building it if I didn't. But I don't think he's gonna. I don't think there's anything to steal there. The hard part is building it, not knowing what to build, I think. Oh, thanks, Bonnie. Bonnie says you're doing a great job. Your heart comes through, and you've stuck with us all this time after selling the product. Yeah, absolutely. I sat on a load of webinars July of last year and promised everyone that Convertri was my baby and I would still be here supporting it for ages to come. And given the space we're in, where everyone says that, and then 3 months later they've moved on, there was a lot of skepticism. So I'm really happy to still be here doing this, talking to you guys, still updating the product. And yeah, we're trying to make money off it. I'm not going to apologize for that. But we're still adding stuff. We still add tons of stuff to the charter thing, like we said we would. So I'm just glad to be able to deliver on that promise I made over a year ago that we're not just going to disappear. Oh, it's an absolute loving Andy fest today. You guys are amazing. Jay says thanks. Simon says thanks for everything, much appreciated. Ed says my integrity really comes to. Oh, guys, I really like this. You can keep going. No, I'm kidding. Cool. Wow, we're up to 70 minutes already. These once we get into the Q&A, this stuff goes really quickly. It's entirely possible. I like the sound of my own voice. Andy! Other Andy is here. Andy Brocklehurst is on the call. Hey, buddy. Love you too. Thanks, Jay. Really appreciate you as well. Cool. Right. Let's move on from the loving Andy section back to. Does anyone have any more questions or like stuff they'd like to talk about today? Because as usually happens at the 60-minute mark, my throat is starting to go a bit. So if you've got a question, let's get it in quickly. Oh, excellent. Simon says he's he had been waiting. He bought as part of the launch, but had been waiting to make sure that we were going to support it. But now is obviously looking to move his sites over. So fantastic to hear that. We love to have you. We love to have all of you. Peter says, can we add the Stripe changes before October? They're certainly on the to-do list, along with all these other things. I'm not making a promise about any specific feature, though. Hey, Jay's asking if there's an official roadmap online somewhere. We try and avoid publishing that. Like, I try and talk about it in general terms and not have specifics nailed down, because those things have a habit of both getting out of date, and when you codify something like that, people feel the need to hold you to it. And I'm just not equipped to make guarantees and promises about individual features or anything like that. And I've made this mistake in the past where I've done that, and then I end up in so many conversations where it's like, oh, but the roadmap says, and it's like, yeah, I know the roadmap says, but it turns out we're human and like we don't always get it right. So I like to talk about it in general terms. Like, you should always feel free to ask questions in the group. Like, if you're interested in a particular feature and like how it's coming along, happy to talk about it. Come to these webinars and I'll talk about what we're working on. But I want to try and avoid having this like just fixed list somewhere, because it just ends up eating up tons of time where I have to explain how somebody's pet feature isn't going to be implemented in quite the same order as the list was. George asks if there's a way to disable Google indexing of a Convertri landing page. Yes, there is. And now we play, can Andy remember where it is in the new UI, or is he going to embarrass himself with his own product? So in the page section under meta info, yeah, there we go. You can toggle the robots details, so no index and no follow. And so you can set those. So it's a bit weird. That's turning no index on. So this is clearly robots should be saying like on should be indexing and off should be not indexing. But because of the way the meta thing works, you are turning on not indexing. So make sure you get that the right way around if you want to turn that off. Because to turn indexing off, you have to turn no indexing on. I didn't come up with that. That's a search engine thing. Don't blame me. Awesome, guys. It looks like we've come to the end of the questions for today. So all that leaves is me to say thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me on a Sunday. I really appreciate all you guys that give up your time to come and see me, like learn a bit more about the product, ask your questions. And as always, don't be afraid. Like, come along to the Facebook group, share any questions you've got. Don't feel you have to wait for the next one of these. We love to help you out in there. And if you've got any of those like support questions where it's specific to your account and we're clearly going to have to get in there and fix stuff, don't forget to drop us an email to support@convertri.com. We love to hear from you. The support team's really friendly. They'll help you out with anything. And they have, we do 3 shifts of tech support a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So, if it's super technical, it can take sort of, more like 48 hours to get your response on that. But you'll always hear back from us in advance of that to let you know what's going on. So, yeah, talk to us. Let us know what's going on. Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. Cool. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Sal. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Bhupinder. Thank you. You guys are amazing. So have an absolutely fantastic rest of the weekend, guys. I'm going back to work on some more webhook features. Cheers for coming out. Thank you, and goodbye.